Jeff, did you watch wrestling this week?
Ian, I did watch wrestling this week.
There was some crazy wrestling this week,
It
wasn't
was
there?
spooky.
It was spooky. It was very spooky.
Mm-hmm,
What did you
mm-hmm,
think of the Wyatt Sicks debut on Raw, and
mm-hmm.
then the Bo Dallas / Uncle Howdy interview on Raw this week?
So I have to be honest. The Wyatt Sicks are starting out in a deficit.
Okay,
They're one and
let's hear
two,
it.
in my humble opinion.
They're 1-2.
They're 1-2.
Okay, so they did get a win in there. That's good.
Yes, the win was that their debut was fantastic. Loved
Yep.
it. I loved the way they set it up. Loved the way they filmed it. Loved how they were going through the halls. And I'm like, oh, who is that? Oh, wow, cool. Who's that guy? And, Nikki Cross plays crazy better than anyone should humanly be able to do it. And, everything was great. Everything. Yeah, that was a fantastic debut. Worth the hype and the buildup. Absolutely. Chad Gable's all shot in the head and whatever. And then two things happened.
Okay.
One was the famous Whataburger Gate, where
okay. All right. Yeah. So for people who don't, if I can just fill people in. So for people who don't know, the Wyatt Sicks took a photo of themselves out of character, out of costume, at a Whataburger after their big debut on Raw, and Jeff will give his reaction to that.
Myself and Mark Henry had similar reactions.
Okay.
Which was, you spent all this time, and like, I'm not saying don't take pictures with fans, don't interact with people. Like, I'm not, we don't need to take things to the level of like Undertaker pretending he was really a wizard for 10 years. Like, we don't need to do that. But the Wyatt Sicks debut was so good. And so much has been put into this leading up to it and all that to suddenly see those, and at this stage, the last time we've seen them is that great group pose where they're all around the lantern. It's awesome. And then the next thing you see is them in like gym shorts grabbing a shake. And I know that we're all supposed to suspend disbelief, and you have to, like, what happens on screen is different than what happens off screen. But at the same time, to do that right after a debut like that, like if this was, 6 months into the Wyatt Six's run, we'd gotten an idea of how they work and how it was going to sink or swim, whatever. But this was right after. It'd be like after Undertaker debuting and, Roddy Piper's like, check out those ham hocks. And he just stops and was like, actually, my name's Mark. Like, just wouldn't have flown, and it wouldn't have given the character the same thing. Now, that said, I'm sure they can recover from it, because the only thing that forgets faster than a toddler is 2024 everyone. So I'm sure it will be gone as soon as possible.
And I also think like fewer fans than you think would have seen that photo too, right? But like, obviously it was all over social media, but there's a good section of fans where they're not looking at wrestling stuff on their social media, or they're not on social media at all. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
And then the Bo Dallas interview which was 5 minutes of Bo Dallas talking to himself, which is fantastic. I felt like seeing Bo out of character in that light, again, way too soon. Way too soon. I think that if this is going to work long term, we need to see Bo Dallas disappear completely within this Howdy character and not do this like split personality. Like, sometimes I'm Bo and sometimes I'm Uncle Howdy. I think that it will lead to the burning out of the gimmick and the concept a lot faster. If, like, we've all been obsessed with Uncle Howdy for the last, we'll say, 6 months, a year, because it was Uncle Howdy and it was mysterious And it was like, what's gonna happen? We haven't seen any character like this in a long, long time. How's it gonna play out? How's it gonna? So for him to then do an interview where he's literally explaining the plot to everyone, like, yes, I'm doing this because of my brother, and it's like, I get it. We all loved your brother. I can't imagine what you went through losing him, but you're rooting the fantasy too deep in reality. And because of the supernatural nature of the characters, you need to go the other way, at least at first. In 10 years, we'll watch, Uncle Howdy become Big Howdy and ride to the ring on a motorcycle and wear bandanas to Limp Bizkit or something. But like for now, they need to really like pump. And I'm surprised because they've been slowly teasing everything out, and then all of a sudden it was just like wham.
Well, I think they might have felt, or maybe Bo Dallas felt, or Taylor Rotunda. I don't know what his non-Uncle Howdy persona's name is going to be. I'll call him Bo Dallas for now. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see Bo Dallas very often. I think it's could just mainly be Uncle Howdy. But I almost feel like some of the questions that Uncle Howdy was asking Bo Dallas in that interview were like his chance to answer some questions that like people might legitimately have. Like when Uncle Howdy asked Bo Dallas, aren't you exploiting your brother's death? And I feel like they might have decided, I think we should address that. Like, I think we should address the idea that Bray Wyatt died. This is his younger brother who was involved in this universe of characters that they were going to bring to life until Bray passed. So I think there was a certain amount of like, we need to explain what Bo Dallas's like motivation is. We have to give this origin story of the Uncle Howdy character. Like, the reason he is who he is because he hurts more than anyone. Bray's death affected him so much, took everything that was of value to him, and said that the whole.
And what I want to hear is Uncle Howdy say that.
Yeah, but I don't know if Uncle Howdy's going to talk a lot.
Well, Uncle Howdy doesn't have to talk a lot, but what I think that everything you said there is absolutely true, and you're right. I'm just saying that it's too soon in the run for they haven't even had a match. No member of the team has had a match yet. We don't even know what their agenda is. We don't know if they're going to be taking out people randomly, if they've got their eyes on something that they want to take over. We don't have any of that motivation. So it's a little bit of just, I felt cart before horse.
Okay. Yep. I think that's entirely possible. Like, I do think it was an incredibly done segment, though. Like,
it was like everything else. It's well done. It's passionate. It's it's awesome. It's just
like the second Uncle Howdy looked right at Bo Dallas, and like I get what you're saying. Maybe do this 3 months down the line, and maybe for the storyline it would have been better, but maybe they felt they needed to kind of address the idea of like they needed to give a response to the question of, aren't you exploiting your brother's death? But the actual segment itself I thought was in many ways like beautiful,
because it's very well done.
It shocked me so much when Uncle Howdy said, how did you feel when your brother died? Because I didn't think like it was just such a dose of harsh realism into something that until then didn't have a lot of realism in it. It was just Bray Wyatt's characters. It wasn't really going into how this guy felt about his brother dying. Like like Bo felt very honest with how he both asked the question and responded to it. And I think when he was saying like nobody knows, like nobody lost more, nobody feels it deeper, or nobody feels it in the same way because nobody had the bond in the same way that he had with his brother.
The familial bond.
Yeah, and I like I listened to him say that, and I was like, he believes 100% everything that he says, and it was one of those things where even in this surreal setting, real life did seep in a little bit in a way that it was jarring to
Mm-hmm.
to that Bray Wyatt's death was talked about so quickly in this angle, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have a feeling it was that this angle is going to be part of the grieving process for this whole family.
Mm-hmm. Which
And
I think that's really, really interesting and really compelling. And like, and
yeah,
that's the thing. Like, I want that to be given to us in a more in a manner more befitting the fact that there's a story. Because at
yeah,
this point, the story is simply the Wyatt Six exist.
yes.
You know, they're not feuding with anyone. They haven't, they knocked out Chad Gable, but he seemed fine later on. He seemed okay.
Well, we know a little bit about their motivation, though. We know that what Bo Dallas said was that the world wanted to move on. They wanted to pretend we didn't exist after Bray died, but we're here and we're gonna make them remember.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the group's motivation is this bitterness that the world tried to move on from them after Bray Wyatt's death.
Mm-hmm.
And with Bo Dallas specifically, he's so filled with hurt over losing his brother that it, kind of helps turn him into this monster that is Uncle Howdy.
Yeah.
So
And what I want to know
yeah.
is why.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Like, why is that your grieving process? Why does that happen? And also,
Mm-hmm.
to what end? Because it's like it's totally reasonable and empathetic of us to sit there and be like and have sympathy for what he's going through and say, okay, he's using this to grieve and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, okay, like I get
So are
it.
you gonna
And
win a
it's
wrestling title then?
so like,
Are you
are you
gonna
just
go for
gonna
the
yeah,
Intercontinental belt?
like, does winning the tag titles help with that? Like, I don't understand the context of it in a pro wrestling context. And
Well,
what
now
almost
you've got
what almost would have been cooler is if do you remember many years ago there was like one episode where Kane was mad about something and he just came out and he interrupted like every match and choke slammed people and walked away. It's just like, I'm just gonna keep messing this place up until you deal with my issue. I forget what it was,
and
but
I'm gonna be an insufferable politician.
yeah, I'm headed down a dark path, but there's no hellfire. you know
Right now,
it,
I'm only causing problems in wrestling.
that's
This is
right.
better than what will happen later.
And then he started walking into town halls and doing the same thing. It was terrible. But like, the mystery behind the Wyatt Six is going to be what drives them. And
Yeah,
so having them show up and just take people out and leave people asking the questions and being like, what is going on here? What is happening? Because that, you can even so tired of talking about them, but you can even trace it back to like the NWO. You know what I mean? The NWO just started coming out and causing problems.
yeah.
And that's what got the executives' attention or whatever. So, and the other thing too is, and this is a small thing, and you're probably just gonna shake your head at me or whatever, but like, so the Wyatt Six show up in this amazing debut vignette.
Right.
They look like they have murdered at least half a dozen people. And it's like, never, like, why wasn't the opening of next week's Raw like, we have called the police? We have started, this person is still in hospital. That person is still like, like, all these people just kind of showed up again and were like, boy, that was weird, and went back to doing what they were doing. And, there was a time when you could totally get away with that in wrestling. But nowadays, people think about this stuff way longer than they watch it. So
well, I think what happened is they maybe overshot a little on the Wyatt debut and how dead everyone looked.
Yeah.
I saw Triple H was on the Pat McAfee show a couple of days ago, and he kind of said it was weird. Everyone took it from like, oh, there's Chad Gable, he's unconscious, there's some blood on his head. Everyone took it was like, he was shot in the head, he's dead. So I think they just overshot at how like
Yeah.
horrific that scene that they made it. There was like, maybe we should have like scaled back and like had somebody moving. Like nobody was moving, right? So it looked like everybody was dead. But in their minds, I think it was everybody was unconscious.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's what it was too. But like, even that, it's like this huge thing. Like the 5 or 6 people I know that Chad Gable, I think Triple H was one of them that got hit too, wasn't he? They got knocked. You know, I think there was. I forget.
No, Triple H had left. If you watch that episode, numerous people had an excuse as to why they had to leave. Drew McIntyre quit. Triple H had followed him to talk to him or something. I think
Sami Zayn left early.
Sami Zayn left early. He did an interview with Sportsnet. Did you see that?
That was crazy.
I don't know. I tweeted out a link to my comedy show. Everyone's responding with, "Hey, your friends are dead." So I was like, what happened?
What's going on? Yeah, no, I like it, and that's all part of it too. Like that much kind of care and detail to it is fantastic. But like at least 1 or 2 of those people should maybe have had the Seth Rollins memorial opening promo segment and been like, "Hey, Wyatt Sicks, what the hell?" You know, like Chad Gable is an asshole, but he didn't do anything to those guys.
Yeah, well, okay, so that's the other thing is like their attacks were very random, I think. Because like Braun Strowman was attacked, and I thought that was a little weird given Braun Strowman's previous alliance with the Wyatt family, right? And then it was Chad Gable, and I remember because I'm trying to think like, the Wyatts going to be baby faces or heels? Are they like a baby face murderous band of misfits?
Ooh, a baby face murder cult.
Well, Dexter Lumis was a baby face serial killer in NXT.
Also, before we go any further, babyface murder cult, trademark Jeff Moss. That will be my new grindcore band.
Yes, we murder, but we're good people.
We look good.
People you murder bad sometimes,
occasionally. But yes.
But now it goes like you've got 6 wrestlers in this group too, right? So, but now comes how do you incorporate them into the overall structure that is WWE? Not to take an unnecessary shit on AEW, but if it was AEW, they'd do this thing for like a few weeks where they attack everybody, then they'd be gone for about 5 weeks. Then like just Nikki Cross would be there for a match on Ring of Honor for like a couple weeks, and then they'd be back. They'd challenge for the trios, you know what I mean. But in WWE, they have to be worked into the overall plan of the show. So, like, is Nikki Cross going to be wrestling? Is the Rambling Rabbit going to go for the U.S. title? So that's where it gets interesting a little bit. Or are they going to live in their own universe? Which brings up kind of an interesting topic, which maybe we can get into after halftime, about supernatural wrestling and the fact that there's a lot of fans who really like it, will tune in to see it, will buy merchandise. And then there's a whole other section of fans who hate the shit out of it and don't want to see it in the wrestling at all. So, you know. Whoa.
Absolutely. I think that's why we're what they did and like let him sort of do that because the supernatural stuff, you have to do it right. You know, you can't just be like, all right, they're crazy, you know, and that was what was always so intriguing to me about sort of the initial Bray Wyatt character as this like swamp Billy cult leader, you know, like, and I never understood why they didn't have him trying to like recruit other wrestlers and like really cause problems within the structure of WWE. So, you know, I just need one of them, Uncle Howdy, Sister Abigail, whoever it is, to come out and be like, okay, we're here. This is why.
Yeah.
I want to destroy the company that led to my brother's death. I want to capture the title that he once held. I want to, you know, like just give me something like that. Like Cody Rhodes shows up and we're all like, hey, it's Cody. That's neat. And then he comes out and is like, I'm here to finish the story. All right, we have a goal. Yeah. We have a place to do this. We have a place to go with this and see how they get there. And I think it's just,
but WWE is actually really good with that right now.
Yeah, I know, and that's why it's so weird.
Well, yeah, but it's just a couple weeks in. Like, so you're right. Like Cody Rhodes comes out, this is my goal. CM Punk, same thing. This is my goal. Seth Rollins comes back after injury. It's my goal to get back the World Heavyweight Champion. We know what everybody is trying to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what, like, they gave us a little bit in that interview where Bo basically said, everybody tried to move away from us, and we reminded them we're here. So we got a little bit, but now we got to say, like,
that's good.
Like, but now, like, does Uncle Howdy want to? Yeah, like you said, is Uncle Howdy's goal to take which show is he on? Right? That's like, I want the World Heavyweight title to be, because it should be in my I like some motivation as to why he wants the world title, or and this is something that other promotions have done from time to time. His goal is not to win the title. His goal is to systematically dismantle and take away all these false heroes. And actually, I'm pretty sure the Wyatt family would do a lot of that, like where Bray would target someone because they're like, we think Rey Mysterio is,
he's not spooky enough.
Yeah. So is there a reason why they, like, did they target Chad Gable because how Chad Gable has been treating Alpha Academy? Did they target Braun Strowman?
They're big Otis fans.
Yeah,
they're just disgruntled fans.
He won Money in the Bank one year. We really like
that. Sure, it was a weird match where they fought in the offices, but still.
It was during the pandemic, but he was funny. We needed it at the time.
I think Rey Mysterio and Damian Priest actually died in that match. Now that I recall,
they got
thrown off the roof.
Over the roof.
Yeah. So maybe that's why the Wyatts are there. They're like, Ray, you're a ghost. He's like, oh my god.
Find out in storyline Ray's been a ghost for several years.
Dominic's just like, what?
Dominic straight up killed him. They're like. Like, oh my god,
this got weird.
But I'm in. Yeah, so I think that's all it's going to take is like, we need clear motivation for these characters, and that can be tricky when your characters are weird. But
True.
I mean, we'll see. I've got very few complaints about the Triple H era so far. So
yeah, for sure, and but Triple H has never really been much of a supernatural spooky guy.
No, but he was there when Undertaker got super big, right?
Yeah, so he understands it, but he himself has never really been involved in much spooky supernatural stuff, unless you want to count the necrophilia. But so when I think of that kind of stuff, I don't necessarily think of him. Now, that's not to say he's not going to do a great job.
I mean, that's true, but I do think Triple H believes in letting wrestlers be artists.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
I think he believed in Bray Wyatt as a person who has vision for that kind of thing in wrestling.
Yeah,
and I've always been good with supernatural stuff in wrestling. I understand where people say, like, okay, it makes it impossible to suspend my disbelief because I know that someone can't shoot lightning out of their hands. I get that. I get that 100%. So I think the model to appeal to both of these fans, both of these groups of fans, is that if you're going to do supernatural stuff, you do it in such a way where the fans who hate that stuff can go, oh no, that was all just light trickery, and in a way where, like, you can prove it away with reason. But the supernatural fans are like, no, he shot lightning out of his hands. So you need to do it in such a way where, like, it's subtle enough that it can be denied, but it'll still feed the people who like that shit,
Yeah, and I mean, wrestling, not unlike life itself, is best lived in the gray area, right?
Yeah,
sure. Where, like, you're not really committing to either side, and you're just kind of enjoying. what's happening, you know? Like, if we're gonna be like, oh, that looks silly, guy shooting lightning out of his hands, like, okay, yeah, well, I saw like a 5'2" guy Hurricane Rana a 6'8" guy, and he seemed real hurt. Like, we're all gonna have those moments where we're like, yes, no, this is clearly a show. But the whole point of it is that these people that do this stuff are good enough that your brain just forgets that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you and I have watched wrestling for the better part of multiple decades, because I don't want to tell people how old we are. You know, and so we've seen it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure you've had this experience where you're sitting with someone who's not really a wrestling fan, and you're watching wrestling and you're like, oh, I hear he's gonna do this, and then he's gonna do that, and then this, yeah, there's that, and you can like kind of predict how the match is gonna go because you've seen so many matches. You know how this works. You know, and so we need to kind of be able to let go of that aspect of things when it comes to supernatural stuff, and be like, all right, he's a ghost uncle with crazy friends. Let's do it. And it's the same way that I look at it and be like, yeah, Sami Zayn, underdog. Let's do it. You know, or Shinsuke Nakamura. He used to be cool. Let's do it. You know, like,
let's try it again.
I
think like I've got a similar attitude where I'm just totally good with all of it, but I wonder if part of that is because we grew up in the cartoonish era of professional wrestling, right? Like you know, when I started watching wrestling in WWF, it was when they were very gimmick heavy, and you had Tugboat and the Big Boss Man and Akeem, and you know, everybody had a job. You know, wrestlers had other jobs, you know. So I wonder if that sort of kind of conditioned us to sort of know, like, hey, this sport might not be on the level.
Yeah.
You know, but like
that prison guard actually doesn't get to beat up the convict that he assaulted years ago.
But it surprises me a little when I hear people say, oh, it makes it harder for me to
thing.
All right, Jeff. Oh, did
sorry.
I lose you? Hi. Oh, there you go. All right.
No, I was just being an asshole.
Anyway. I saw an interview where R-Truth pretended to be on mute just like that for like 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, that fits with this character.
I also enjoyed, just while we're talking about funny backstage segments from the last one, Jey Uso's reaction to the
to the Wyatt Sicks. Like, they can have the Fireflies.
He's like, yeah, they can have them. He's like, did you see that girl?
But he also said, I can't remember who was interviewing him, like Kathy Kelly or Jackie Redmond. He was like, I don't know if we should be here. We need to go.
Very, very good stuff. Which of course brings us back to the supernatural that we were discussing prior to the break.
Right. I actually wanted to compare the Wyatt Sicks and their supernaturalness to one of the most famous, infamous, depending on your point of view, acts of supernatural phenomenon in wrestling. And this was the 1994 Royal Rumble. And Undertaker is wrestling Yokozuna in a casket match. And I got to tell you, Mr. Fuji had some great strategy for his wrestler in this match. And it's one that I really think that all managers should use as a strategy for when their wrestler is in a no DQ match. And that's just get all of the other bad guy wrestlers to come out and help him beat up the good guy. So that's what happened. Basically, all the bad guys in the company came out and they all beat up Undertaker and they put him into a casket. They sealed the casket. And then, you know, they're wheeling the casket back and there's like a rumbling. There's a smoke. And all of a sudden, all this eerie music plays. And we see up on the big screen, the Undertaker is rising from the dead. And basically, they did this whole scene that made it look like Undertaker was pulling a Jesus on Easter type of thing, rising from the dead, and then promising to come back and spite his enemies, I guess, which I'm not sure if that's what Jesus did, but
I think that was at In Your House Last Supper. That was the name of the event.
In Your House Last Supper. Yeah. Oh, that was when they had the impromptu match with Judas. That was awesome.
No one saw his turn coming, except Jesus.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that guy, and let's not forget too when Kane and Paul Bearer pulled a similar stunt and actually lit the casket on fire.
There's that too. Well, like what we were referencing before, so in the build up to WrestleMania 14, they kind of amped up that supernatural stuff even more to where like Kane and Undertaker had magic powers.
Yeah.
Now I've heard like the people who hate supernatural wrestling will say, "Oh, but everybody hated it back then." That's not how I remember it. No. I'm sorry. I remember being in an audience for shows at that time, and people were literally chanting magic, magic, magic. I remember the people being into it, but sometimes you hear people talk about that and they're like, "Oh, wasn't that stupid?" And I was like, I remember a lot of people kind of liking it,
The Rock is producing a 7-part documentary called Who Really Liked It. It'll be on Vice.
But I thought, the Undertaker did kind of pave the way for this supernatural stuff in wrestling. We saw Matt Hardy took it in a direction,
totally new direction that was so good.
That was very, very good. And WWE would try for years with different characters to try and recapture what they did with Undertaker. I mean, they tried Papa Shango, Mordecai.
Mordecai, the Boogeyman, who still thinks he still thinks he's the Boogeyman. It's very strange. They did, all the acolytes and the Ministry of Darkness people too. Even Ultimate Warrior had a little bit of mysticism to him at one point.
Yeah, I would say so, but he was just so nonsensical in everything that he said that I think it just slipped by. Like there were times where I believe Undertaker or Ultimate Warrior cut promos about how he had flown a rocket ship to different planets and back, but everyone was just like, "Well, that guy's out
okay." That could have happened, but I do think there is a place for the supernatural in wrestling, and we're also talking about two kinds of supernatural, right? We're talking about the literal hellfire and brimstone supernatural. Like even when Kane did his little thing on the ring post, we were meant to believe that was magic at first, right? So there's a place for that. It's a small place, but there's a place. But there's also a huge place for people like the House of Black, who are just dark.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and dark characters and stuff like that. The Wyatt Sicks specifically have a little bit of a hindrance to begin with, in that they're wearing masks, and they're not wearing like wrestling masks. They're wearing like you can't wrestle as Buzzy the Buzzard or whatever his name is. Like, you got to take that off.
Question. Yeah.
So it's like, when it comes to suspending that kind of disbelief, like Malachi Black just always looks like Malachi Black,
Yeah,
he's gonna have maybe some face paint on or something, so I can get behind his weirdness, But the other side of it with the big sort of costume production is that the more you humanize them, the less their antics have an impact. So it's a weird line to walk. And, I don't think they would have sunk all this into it if they didn't have a plan, for the long term. But so I'm not like, well, fuck these guys. It's more just like, I think they tripped a little bit after that first bit, but I'm sure it'll be fine going forward.
But it's like, okay, so the masks we've seen them in, they can't wrestle in.
Yeah.
But like Uncle Howdy's sort of like gray scully thing, I think he can. And like the Fiends, kind of like in that kind of mask where they're working with these horror special effects people.
The Howdy mask is almost like a domino.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So I think that you could wrestle in. One thing the Bray Wyatt documentary taught me was how goddamn miserable he looked in that Fiend costume and trying to wrestle in it.
Yeah.
And I think that they found that it was really a hindrance, that they didn't really expect.
Yeah.
Them to do that. So they're going to have to do something with the people that, like, Nikki Cross takes off the little shattered sort of porcelain mask she had on.
Yeah, but Nikki looks
right, but like that's not a big
Nikki's
deal.
like Malachi Black.
Yeah.
Like if she puts on her crazy face, she's
exactly
fits,
And the rest of them have pretty good crazy faces too. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, how much? Because am I supposed to believe that Dexter Loomis, the serial killer, morphed into whichever one he is, Vulturus or whatever? Am I to believe that Vulturus is the character and just happens to be the same guy that played Dexter Loomis?
I don't know, but I believe. Have they acknowledged that Nikki Cross is Nikki Cross?
No, they've just called I'm pretty sure they just called them by their Wyatt names. Okay. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, and I might have missed something somewhere, but I'm pretty sure that
because it's pretty obvious. Like when she came out, there's not a wrestling fan in the world who was like, "Oh, there's Nikki Cross," right? So I don't know, and we'll find out where if it was Vince McMahon, that they would be new characters, and you would just be meant to forget about them. Triple H is a little less willing to insult the intelligence of the fans. I think he's a bit more prone to going well, they know what Nikki Cross looks like. We can't just say that's not Nikki Cross.
We're not going to be able to trot out a fake Razor and Diesel and make people know who. They're going to know who that is.
It did not go well the first time.
So but I mean, is it like, and that's just one of the questions that I have going forward is, am I looking at these as, is this Nikki Cross repackaged as Sister Abigail, or Nikki Cross, the character, falls so far from grace that she morphed into Sister Abigail?
Well, I think you do it in the same way that Bray Wyatt was the cult leader and he would take these people and they would be his followers. I think maybe the same thing's going on with Uncle Howdy now, where like Joe Gacy, I'm not sure who he plays, Dexter Loomis.
I think he's Huskus.
Is he Huskus? I think it would be fitting with Joe Gacy, what we learned about his character in NXT, for him to have fallen under the evil spell of Uncle Howdy. Same thing with Dexter Loomis. Dexter Loomis might be like, I've never had other friends who like to serial kill. Now I've got friends to serial kill with. And that's nice. And that could be like his arc. Where
he still married to Indy Hartwell? Friends.
Well, Indy Hartwell, after the segment where they murdered everybody, I guess Indy Hartwell, feeling like this is really an irreconcilable difference that has developed in our marriage.
Made sure she filed for divorce.
Well, she tweeted something. She tweeted a sign, like a road sign that said "divorces 99 cents." So, all right.
I assume that's what she was referring to.
I guess that counts as a response to the thing. So.
These days, half the stories are played out that way, so why not? It makes sense to me. But I'm very excited for the Wyatt Sicks in general.
Me too.
I think that they are going to be a fun thing to watch grow and evolve over the next little while.
Yeah.
And WWE is not short good things going on story-wise right now, because Drew McIntyre versus one Charles Michael Punk has been fantastic. And sorry, I had a hair in my mouth there for those watching at home. It was pretty disgusting. The Clash at the Castle.
Yes.
The CM punking of Drew McIntyre. We haven't sort of talked since then. And I want to say how excellently that was pulled off. Where,
perfect.
The new ref slides into the ring, but you can't see his face. And he's like, they're shooting him at that angle and everything. And then finally they just whip around and there's I haven't seen CM Punk in that light in 15 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was perfect. It was so well done. And I don't know when they're going to get around to having a match, because who knows with Punk's tricep thingy and, Drew's got stuff going on too. But the fact that they've been able to keep this angle so hot without a single match is an incredible testament to what they're doing.
That's okay. Think of CM Punk's last like 7-8 months in wrestling. He was in the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
That's
that was it.
That's the only wrestling match that he's had, you know. So like, okay, so from All In, so All In was like September 1st or something last year, maybe a bit before it. So we're now, so it's like in 10 months, he's had one match. It wasn't even like, it was just an entry into the Royal Rumble. And he's had some of the best storylines in all of wrestling during that time. His story, like he had a whole feud with Seth Rollins that ended in both of them getting hurt and missing WrestleMania, but it was huge for months. You know, like the segments where they would have promo segments back and forth, there would be a massive spike in ratings for those. It was a huge deal. Never led to anything. It eventually will. And this Drew McIntyre thing is the same way, but more than anything, this has taken Drew McIntyre up a level.
Yeah, really it has.
You know, and it's hard to take a guy who, you know, multiple world championships, they had him beat Brock Lesnar, he's done a lot of very cool things. But in terms of how much he's talked about in the wrestling sphere, like this is the best Drew McIntyre there's ever been. And it's not just because he's in a feud with CM Punk, it's that he's in a feud with CM Punk and he's holding his own perfectly well in promos, in social media stuff. He's been hilarious. And I think like all of this has just led to people appreciating Drew McIntyre more as a character. In terms of Drew McIntyre losing in his hometown in Scotland,
that was
in
so
front of
rough.
in front of some people who paid thousands of dollars for a ticket. Like, hold on. Oh, no.
How much did the cat pay?
All right.
This will be our most liked.
Okay, goodbye. Yes. The him getting screwed. Like, I know that there were people from Scotland leaving there, you know, wanting their money back and stuff like that. They'll get over it in a few months. They'll be fine. You go back there, it'll be fine. Like, I get it. He lost and that's bad. But everything that happened made sense. It made sense in a storyline. And in a way, it was even better for Drew McIntyre because his character has so much to be pissed off about now. Like, between I didn't get my WrestleMania moment during the pandemic, to I didn't get my WrestleMania moment because Punk, you know, did something, and then the Money in the Bank
Damian cashed in.
Yeah, Damian cashed in, but Punk had attacked me or something. And now I don't get my big moment at Clash at the Castle. Oh, and he also had the Clash at the Castle in Wales that he got screwed over by Roman. So he's got 4 really bitter moments. And it's just going to give him so much fuel to be such a awesome bad guy.
Yeah.
That I think Drew McIntyre is going to be far more important in wrestling for the next few years than he's ever been. Which, you know, hey, man, you know.
And it also goes to show you that when CM Punk has someone to say to him, that's far enough.
Yeah.
Don't go any further than that. And in this case, we'll probably explain to him why. You know, he is so good. And I enjoyed his AEW work when he was there.
Punk,
you know, and it was what it was, and it was great, you know. But like now that he is back in a more contained environment, like you say, he's had one match in like a year, and he's the hottest thing in wrestling.
Huge,
like he's able to work with people again. And I don't know if that's just a maturity thing, or maybe it's he, you know, finally figured out life, the universe, and everything. I don't know, but he looks like he's enjoying himself again.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, and this is a speculation, but I would posit that maybe the pressure of not being the face of everything is a little less for him now, you know, and like, so he's able to have a little bit more fun and energy within So much about his AEW run was about proving that he could still do this, and proving that he was worth the big money and worth, and a little bit of a revenge tour kind of thing. Well, he doesn't have all that baggage now.
Yeah.
So it's like he's pure Punk, I guess you could say. He's just like, he's in there and he's doing shit, and it's great.
I think where I really noticed that Punk was sort of in a good space with everything happening in WWE, I think they thought when he came in, he would get a mixed reaction. And he got a universal babyface reaction. And it's just continued, right? And I think he probably appreciated that. Like, as much as he was playing into the hate he got at the end of his AEW run, I don't think he was ready for that babyface I'm back, thing to go on. But also, like, okay, so why is Punk, such a big deal in WWE without wrestling, and it just didn't work out in AEW personality wise is the thing. And it started to dawn on me, like, him and Cody Rhodes have so much in common, right? They both left WWE in an unsatisfied huff.
Yeah.
They both ended up in AEW and left AEW, in Punk's case, very public spat with the company. In Cody's case,
a lot quieter.
There's a quiet underpinning of unsatisfaction exists, right? Where it's like, he's not saying anything bad about them, but clearly there was a disagreement or something. I think maybe Cody thinks, hey, I was brought in here to be an EVP. All of a sudden, I don't seem to have, the control that I do.
The other 7 EVPs aren't.
Yeah, like I noticed.
Like,
I notice everybody that gets hired is now an EVP. So I think maybe there was like an over promising to 2 big superstars in CM Punk and Cody Rhodes, and they both ended up leaving AEW. They both show up to WWE to a hero's ovation, that they were back and everybody was super happy to see them back. And then they promptly tore muscles and were gone for like a year.
Yeah, that's true. Although Cody did have that cage match prior to leaving.
Yeah,
one of that was hardest moments I've ever seen in my life.
That's the most Cody Rhodes thing that he's ever done. Here's the thing about the Rhodes family. They're friggin' awesome. They always go down the most difficult path they could.
Oh yeah. Hard times, so Dusty, hard road.
Dusty, big trailblazer in the industry, but don't discount what Dustin did as Goldust, because he comes in, he was just a Dusty Rhodes clone. And he was like, no, this is not how we're doing this. And he decided, like, forget who my dad is. Forget the fact that I could just coast on being Dustin Rhodes the Natural for my entire career. I'm going to do this crazy Goldust character.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get over in a way that nobody can say this is because of who my father is.
Yeah.
He did it in a company that his dad had nothing to do with at the time. No, perfect. And he did that his whole career. Cody Rhodes comes in. Cody Rhodes could have coasted off being Cody Rhodes for his entire career in WWE, could have made a shit ton of money. In 2016, he goes, no, I'm better than you guys think I am. I'm going to go out and I'm going to prove it. And he goes into, I thought when Cody Rhodes said, I'm going to go to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, I was like, you're going to get booed. They're going to hate you. You're a WWE guy. You don't know how to wrestle that style. And no, he did it, but he learned and he figured out how to win these fans over. And he started to become a baby face. And then he got over even more when he was doing the Bullet Club leadership stuff, creates AEW. Like Cody Rhodes never does anything the easy way. So when he tears his pec and there's nobody to take his place, this card is going to be, shit because of this. He says, no, I'm going to be the first motherfucker to wrestle with a torn pec.
Didn't he win the match too?
He did. Yeah. And it just created this whole aura around the match because nobody had seen pictures of his pec until he took his jacket off in the ring. And I'll never forget that reaction. He takes off his jacket. Everybody sees that his pec is like just everything is bruised or wwhatever. Everyone goes, oh,
I don't want to.
Like if I had been in the crowd, I probably would have yelled out, "You don't have to do this.
It's fine.
Just I don't know. Bring in AJ. Have them do.
Go to the doctor.
AJ, Seth, come on.
Just go to the doctor."
That's my thing. Like, if you're short a wrestler, just break glass. Here's AJ Styles.
Yeah, whatever. There's always an AJ Styles in the wings.
But that's why I love the story of Cody Rhodes so much, is because he does everything with such a passion, right? And he has such a strong moral compass where like, I'm always going to do the right thing. Like he's a real baby face.
Yeah,
he's like, he is a real baby face.
He's the first that I've seen since Cena.
Okay.
Since Cena, and who like you look at him
back.
And Hi.
Sorry, my Bluetooth is also hooked up to my phone, so I couldn't hear what you were saying there.
I was just saying, like, he's the first one I've seen since John Cena. Like, yes, John Cena was playing a character, but Cena got to a point where John Cena was just John Cena.
Yeah.
And Cody is at that stage now where Cody is just Cody. He's not Cody being a bad guy or a good guy. He's just being Cody. And Steve Austin got to that point too, where he's just like, I'm just being me. I don't care anymore, and that's a rare thing. And we haven't seen it in a real long time. And I think that's incredible. And one of the reasons that Cody connects with people so well.
And yeah, absolutely. And he connects with people so well, and he's not going to pull a Hulk Hogan with this popularity, like Hulk Hogan was so bad. Okay, so like Hogan was everybody's big heroes or whatever, and then they grow up and they hear him say what he said, and he let all of wrestling down by being an asshole, like, and that must have been so shattering for so many people. I'm so lucky I always hated Hogan. I was always a Macho Man guy and then a Bret guy, and I was never that into Hogan. So, but like, I can see like, if you're a wrestling fan and like fuck Hulk Hogan for doing that. John Cena will never do that to wrestling. We can like, I feel very confident if there were skeletons in his closet, they'd be out by now. And I feel the same way about Cody Rhodes. I feel like Cody Rhodes is like, this is a guy who for his life, I feel he's always going to try his best to do the right thing. He's never going to let us down in that way that Hulk Hogan, let everyone down.
This is a guy that got a giant neck tattoo because he didn't realize how big it was going to be when the artist started, and he just let him finish. Like,
well, that's just like, well, he goes
okay,
he goes deep into everything. He does not do anything half-assed. And if you even look at his run in WWE, his first one, he takes some shitty, terrible storylines and does them great. Stardust. Watch Stardust. Yeah, horrible gimmick. He puts all of himself into it. He is 100% that character, no matter how stupid that character was. Same thing when he was undashing. Remember, he got a broken nose.
Dashing Cody Rhodes was the best with the mustache. And then he broke his nose. And he'd wrestle in the mat.
So that's, it's just so consistent for him. And I think that's what's so inspiring about Cody Rhodes is that you look at this guy and you're like, man, if I just approach things with the motivation and, enthusiasm and energy as Cody Rhodes, I could get stuff done. But that also looks like it's a lot of work, tiring,
I might have to stop watching TV.
Yes.
It just doesn't seem right.
I'm more of the inspired by Mick Foley kind of stuff, like eat a shit ton of really terrible food and
sleep in your car.
Mainly because
develop a lot of sweatpants. That was
But
always
yeah, man,
cool.
you're right though. Like, uh, so many good plot lines going on. So you got Cody Rhodes with the new bloodline now is
Oh
kind of the big
man,
thing.
are we on the
Yeah.
cusp of the Bloodline Civil War?
I hope
Is
so.
it
I
is
hope
it
so.
starting already?
Well, the big thing that was making some headlines recently is Roman Reigns is
Mm-hmm.
no longer following Solo Sikoa on Instagram.
Oh my God, need the tea.
Well, it does look like Solo Sikoa
Mm-hmm.
has taken over the bloodline
Yes.
now. And I can't believe it. When Roman Reigns comes back, he's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the biggest baby face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that like this has been simmering too. Like it's not even WWE's top story, right? Like this has been simmering, and I love that it's been simmering as they've added, the Fatus and the Tongas, and everyone now who's ever been in the same restaurant
Tons of
as
King Haku's
yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone who's been in the same restaurant as Rikishi is now in the bloodline, like, and so throughout all this, the two big dogs of the bloodline, The Rock and Roman Reigns, are nowhere to be found. So it's going to be really cool when presumably one, if not both of them, comes back. And there's all kinds of ways you could set it up where, Roman comes back and Solo won't give up the tribal leadership, so they have a fight, and then the bloodline splits, and then The Rock shows up, and it's which side is he gonna go with, and all this kind of stuff, and then suddenly there's two bloodlines, and it's Survivor Series has a point, things like
the Usos could get back into the mix a little
Usos are
bit if
back
they
in the
end up
mix.
aligning with someone. If
Yep.
Roman comes back and he's a baby face and Jey Uso is still a baby face,
Yep.
they'll find some way to bring them back together. So maybe Roman and the Usos versus the new bloodline. Maybe Cody Rhodes is involved in it. Maybe The Rock's involved in it. They have so many
Cody's just like, why am I here? Stop hitting me with things.
I have never even been to Tonga.
I don't know where it is.
Yeah, so many big matches and angles because you've got those three guys can all face each other in big matches at some points. Cody Rhodes, The Rock, and Roman Reigns, right? Well, I guess you've done Cody and Roman twice now. You could still get like down the road a rubber match, another one. But
and I would even look at it as an opportunity to give Cody a nice long run with the belt before he has to face Roman or Rock again. And just let the bloodline settle its scores before coming back to the top or whatever. But
well, we don't know when Roman is going to be back, and Roman just lost his father too. I don't know if you heard Wild Simone Sika.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean he'd lived a very long life.
Well,
and everything. So like Roman just lost his father. He's not coming back anytime soon.
No.
And also if he was coming back in time for SummerSlam, we'd know by now. They're
pretty
set
hints
in their angles. Yeah.
There'd be hints, and The Rock's too busy putting out movies that are looking way more delightful than they should. And so,
but you got Cody versus The Rock at WrestleMania, or possibly Roman versus The Rock at WrestleMania. So those are two huge WrestleMania matches down the line. I just hope that we're able to get stuff out of The Rock, right? Like he's kind of in demand.
He's also old.
Yeah, he's not getting any younger too.
And while he is in ridiculous shape, he is getting up there. So
did you hear there was an article that came out? It was in Deadline or Variety or one of those entertainment magazines where you're like, I don't know about this. But anyway, apparently The Rock has rubbed some people the wrong way in the film world because he'll just show up like 8 hours late or whatever. And
hogwash.
Yeah. Well,
hogwash. I read this article.
Yeah.
And it sounds so here's how how much truth there is to it. Nowhere else really ran with this article.
Yeah.
And no one was ever really named. It was always insiders. It was whatever. I think it might have been something that someone maybe put out there because Deadline and Variety are both very purchasable. Like, there may have been something to it, someone trying to maybe put a little tarnish on Dwayne Johnson for some reason, because the things that they were saying that he would, he'd show up 8 hours late and he'd, leave to work out or whatever, and he didn't want to go to the bathroom between takes, so he'd pee in bottles and make PAs clean them up and stuff. Two things. One, that kind of goes against everything we know about The Rock or Dwayne Johnson as a person at this point. And it seems extremely out of character. Does he show up late? Maybe. I don't know. Sometimes people are late. I don't get it. But the other thing is that hundreds of millions of dollars are spent to make Rock movies. If The Rock was being that much of a, because if he's 8 hours late, he has wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of
that's not cheap,
right? So if he's doing this routinely, there would be consequences in terms of his future employability. And also the studios would make it known, because they wouldn't want to put something out that put them in a bad light. So I read that article and I have my doubts as to the validity of it all, especially since nothing has happened since. Usually if someone's going to come out and be like, this guy was an asshole on set, then more people will be like, yeah, he was an asshole, or he was addicted, or, and that has not happened. So
my theory is that it was wrestling fans that fed this information to Deadline, because they're like, maybe, fuck, man, if The Rock just stopped making movies, then he would be on wrestling more. So let's somehow get him canceled from Hollywood, but not from wrestling. But the other thing is, when I first read that article, I was like, man, Rock would be 8 hours late to filming of a movie. If I was filming a movie with The Rock and he was 8 hours late, I would just sit patiently in a chair for 8 hours. And when he showed up, I'd be like, hey, Rock, this is great. I'm so happy to be doing a movie with you. It was so incredible. Huh? Yeah. No, a bunch of people left. They said you were crazy late and there's no food, but I'm still here, Rock.
They showed me how to push record on the camera, so I think we're going to be okay.
I told you about this house show I went to where you just talked. That's all he did. It was like Rock talking.
It was amazing. Just do that. Just do that.
We'll make a movie. It was Rock talking.
Black Adam 2. Just The Rock talking.
We'll just call it Black Adam 2. We'll see him. DC Universe is going to be gone. They can't sue us. They got no money left.
Yeah. No, I was very that was one of those times that I read an article and I was like, oh, no, not gonna
I was
happen.
Just Nick Khan sitting down going, man, this Rock makes us a lot of money. How do we get him on, a big show next year or whatever? We got to start getting some of these movie contracts canceled.
I love that in your pretend war against The Rock, that the outcome isn't even like, we got to destroy him. It's no, we need to free him up so we can spend more time with him.
I was like, yes, I sabotaged your career, but it was so we could spend more time together.
We could hang.
But I just think it's like The Rock is so good for wrestling, and his window is shrinking, and there's 2 big matches left, right? So if it's WrestleMania this year or WrestleMania next year,
Cody and Roman.
No, Rock and Cody and Rock and Roman. Those are 2.
That's what I mean.
No matter what else happens, those 2 matches have to happen.
Really?
I think
I'll be honest. If I don't see Roman Reigns and The Rock, I'm okay.
I'd be more okay not seeing that than not seeing Rock versus Cody. I really want to see that. Just be that whole thing where Rock gave back the watch and
that needs to be.
It's there. They need to do that. Rock and Roman.
See, in my mind, when he handed him the watch, it was actually a snotty hanky. And Cody was just like, oh, gross.
In my mind, when they came back backstage, The Rock gave him the same speech about the watch that Christopher Walken gave a young Bruce Willis in Pulp Fiction.
It was in my ass.
Put it on my ass.
If you smell it, Dwayne, it may be of what I was cooking.
Oh man,
this devolved quickly.
Yeah, but a lot of cool things. Jacob Fatu, of course, debuted on Friday, and man, he's in shape because Jacob Fatu, was a larger individual the last time I saw him, but
I didn't recognize
pretty
him.
Slim. Yeah, I didn't recognize him either until they showed his face.
Yeah,
I was like, this is because I was like, it's either Jacob Fatu or it's Hikuleo, and it's not tall enough to be Hikuleo, and it's not robust enough to be Jacob Fatu.
Yeah.
And then they showed his face. I was like, Jacob Fatu got himself in some shape.
And what a great debut too.
Yeah.
Again,
real good.
Again, the distraction, Solo Sikoa starting to laugh and all that kind of, oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's interesting. He's Tama's kid. I don't know if you remember the Islanders, Haku and Tama.
Yep.
So Haku's kids and Tama's kids are now both in the bloodline in WWE. So
that's amazing.
Cool. Have you heard what
they're like? What's that?
Have you heard what they're going to call Hikuleo?
No.
Well, Hikuleo is like 6'8". He's super tall. Yeah. Talatonga. I guess it's actually his middle name though.
That's amazing.
Which they would have given him before they knew he was going to be tall. But
I like to think that someone walked into the locker room and was like, okay, we got it. We're going to call you Talatonga. And he was like, have I got good news for you?
Someone immediately was like, no, don't take texts from Vince. Nobody take texts from Vince. We're not calling him that. That's stupid. Bruce, get out of here.
It's my name though.
Shit. Yeah, fine. You're Talatonga.
All right, go for it. Yeah, I love the expansion of the bloodline, and
I think it's been good.
Those Uso and Reigns children got to be getting near age. If not, they should just induct Kevin Owens' kid because he's like 7 feet tall.
Yes, Kevin Owens' kid. Oh my God. Yeah, he was on the NHL Network talking about his kid getting into wrestling. So yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah. 16 years old though, so it might be a little bit.
Well, yeah, but also if you can find, there's a few pictures where you can see Owen standing with his son.